Very good morning to you. How are you doing? Welcome. It's the 3rd of February, Wednesday, first Wednesday in the month of February. If it's Wednesday, you know it is Sikuya Clinic, Financial Clinic. I've put the bench outside. I've sanitized it. And so we are good to go. And I don't know about you, but when you think about retirement, what kind of picture comes to mind? Do you see yourself living somewhere in the countryside? You know, you have your nice cabin house. You know, you have a couple of cows, you know, hapo kwa shamba. You know, I mean, you wake up in the morning, you get your rocking chair, you sit outside your house, you're rocking, you know, the cows are mooing in a distance, the chickens are running all over the place. Life is good. Oh my goodness, life is good. If that's the kind of picture you have, good for you, but let's stop dreaming and let's come back to reality. What preparations are you making to make that a reality? Because today we are going to be talking about planning for retirement. And when do you start planning for retirement? In fact, what is retirement? When we talk about retirement, what is retirement? I was asking earlier on my radio show what plans people have for retirement. And several people are saying, hey, maybe after the program today we will come up with a plan, because as it is right now, plan is missing in action. We're just living one day at a time. Hand to mouth, retirement will sort itself out when we get there. No, we have to start thinking about retirement so that we can plan and become self-sufficient in terms of having what we need and being active during our years of retirement. I have an amazing guest. I will be introducing her to you shortly. But before we get to all that, I would love to hear from you as we dive into this discussion today. Do you have a retirement plan? Kustaafu. That's what it is in Swahili, I think. Yes, kustaafu. Uko na mpango wa kustaafu. Do you have a retirement plan? What's that plan? Talk to me. 20316 SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Sikuya Clinic imefika. Financial Clinic. Today we are talking about planning for retirement. And the question is, do you have a retirement plan in place? If you do, what's that plan? If you don't, why don't you have it? SMS is coming in on 20316. WhatsApp 0786 316 316. Also, if you have a question for us today, feel free to send it in. And send it in early so that we can get to it in good time. Don't wait until 10 minutes before we are ending the show and then you bombard me with like 59 questions. Hatutaweza kujibu. So send them in now. I can see Mama Stacy has already sent in her question. Mama says, Stacy, we'll get to your question shortly. This morning we're so glad to be joined by financial and retirement planner Rose Wakiria. Rose, how are you doing today?
I'm well, James. How are you?
I'm very fine. Karibu sana, and thank you for finding the time to talk to us today. Let's begin by defining retirement. When we talk about retirement, what are we talking about here?
Retirement is disruption. Basically, it's basically something that happens that disrupts the way you've been living your lifestyle.
Okay.
So it means that what you have been doing will no longer continue to be the case going forward. And maybe I can define it in terms of two categories, the employed and the unemployed, or the self-employed and entrepreneurs. So the employed seem to be the ones who are greatly affected because they have established this lifestyle, but for various reasons, they have to leave it.
Yes.
So this is when you have to leave employment because you've attained a certain age. Your employer says at 60 years old, you have to leave. So you have to leave at that age, or you lose your job. Many have the unfortunate to lose their jobs before retirement or close to retirement age, and they can't get another job, so they are forced into early retirement.
Yes.
And for those who have planned well, some normally will have attained financial freedom, where they feel, okay, I no longer want to work. I have the finances to take care of my lifestyle. Then I can go home and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So it basically means you leave active employment or your usual engagement. For the self-employed, they also probably have something they normally do on a regular basis, their usual engagement, and they also have to leave it for various reasons. It may not be early like the employed, but either due to health or even age, or sometimes your skill sets can no longer take the business to the next level and you need to leave and let other people deal with it. So for various reasons, you have to leave what you normally do between 8 and 5.
I like the description you've given, because the picture we get of retirement is the picture our parents gave us. Now, for many of us, our parents, if you're from my age group, our parents came from Geshagi and they came to Nairobi to work. And for those of us who are privileged enough, we tagged along, or we were born here. So this is the home that we know. But our parents, the picture they give us of retirement is kazi inaisha, unarudi Geshagi. And if you had not built a house there, kama hukukuwa na kamogoda hapo, if you had not to cows, my friend, you are doomed. You will die early. And so our parents keep pushing us. Yeah, Mr. Okumu is listening. Our parents keep pushing us to build a house home. And they keep telling us, Nairobi siyo kwenyu, Nairobi siyo kwenyu. So for many of us, that's the picture we get of retirement. And it becomes a bit hard to connect with it, because if we are honest, we've lived all our life in Nairobi. So why are you telling us Nairobi is not our home? So there's like a confusion that comes in there. I don't know what you think about what I'm saying.
I believe that is true. Majority of people have that image, but I think it is still true to some extent.
Yeah.
And it applies to certain people, but not necessarily everyone. So they are right, especially when they say you need to have a home. It could be in Geshagi or it could be anywhere else, because you will need to settle down somewhere.
Yes.
But I think when I think retirement, I think about it in terms of defining the kind of lifestyle you want to live later on when you live active engagement. So you might desire to have a lifestyle in your rural area, and many people choose that because of various reasons. Maybe support systems that you have at home, you have a shamba that probably can do something with it. But also there are people who have never lived that life, and they've lived their lives in urban areas, and they want to continue living in urban areas. So I believe you need to decide, and then you create a plan to ensure that you get what you want.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, in your work, talking to people about retirement and planning for retirement, what are some common misconceptions you hear when it comes to the issue of retirement?
Okay, actually, the day before yesterday, I decided to just throw this question to many of my contacts.
Yeah.
So I asked them, when you think retirement, give me one word that can describe what kind of retirement that you want. And I had many people say joyous, busy, travel, stress-free, hassle-free, healthy. And while those are all good descriptive words, and yes, and I restricted them to one word, what I find is that there's lack of clarity. People don't have clarity on exactly what they want. But if I asked you, for example, how much money would you want me to give you, or how much money are you working towards? People tend to be a little bit specific. They know if I can only get 2 million shillings, I can do this and this. But when it comes to retirement, there's that lack of clarity. People have not taken time to clarify, yes, I want a healthy lifestyle, but what does that mean?
Exactly.
I want a stress-free lifestyle, hassle-free lifestyle. Okay, we all know we'll always have trouble. So there's definitely no way it's going to be hassle-free. But what probably they're saying, they want to manage many of the factors around them so that they're in more control of the factors that affect them, as opposed to being victims of circumstances. So one of the misconceptions are that you can have a stress-free retirement. You can have a comfortable retirement, a satisfying season, but you'll still have a few challenges. The other misconception is that they want to have a restful period. They just want to rest. Now, let me ask you, we had COVID struck last year, and most of us could not go to work. We had to stay at home and we had to rest. And soon after that, we had people saying, now I'm tired of this rest. I want to rest from rest. So if you rest all day, all month, for several years, it's going to become a job, and you'll definitely need to rest from rest. So retirement, yes, it's a time when you rest in the sense that the pressure of work is no longer there. You've probably met most of your financial goals. You've raised your children. You've done a lot of things. And so probably there are less things that you have to deal with. That makes it a more restful season. But I don't believe it's a time when we put up our feet and just observe life. I believe it gives us an opportunity to redefine ourselves and become even more useful. Remember, by the time you retire, you're older, wiser, you've had a lot of experience resources, you're full of wisdom. When you look back, you can actually empower people with a lot of knowledge on what life is all about.
Yeah.
So it's not a time to pack all that knowledge, but it's a time to actually share it with others. So I would want people to look at retirement as just a transition into a different season where probably what you do looks different, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing for you to do. There's actually a lot to do in that season.
Okay, I like that. There's a question here from Ekra in reference to something you just said. Ekra is saying, I wonder what happens when people retire, especially men, because a few months or years after retirement, they either begin developing health issues or worse off, they just die. And she's wondering what happens when people retire, especially men.
Yes, interesting question, which I get all the time. And one of the things probably that can help me answer that is to look at some of the 3 most important things that human beings need.
Okay.
According to a psychologist called Dr. Henry Cloud, he talks of 3 things that we need. We need a sense of control, we need a sense of connection, and we need structure in our lives. Now, retirement comes and disrupts all these things.
Yes.
When it comes to control, money or income gives you control to do what you want to do. You meet your needs when you're able to.
Yes.
And retirement comes and majority of people suffer a reduction in income or even no income at all. So you lose control of a number of factors. Connection. When you leave employment or when you stop working, your circle of network reduces, shrinks.
Very true.
And the older you get into retirement, the smaller it gets. The last thing is time, structure. And time is what basically expands in retirement. You have a lot of time to yourself without a job. You don't have an 8 to 5, you don't have commute time, so you have a lot of time. If you don't have a plan for that time, then that starts affecting your mental well-being. And I think many men struggle with that because generally men find a lot of wrap their identity around their work. They find a lot of satisfaction in what they do.
Yeah.
So when they no longer have something to do, life sort of appears to be meaningless. We normally call that a retirement void. They get into a retirement void where they have no plan for tomorrow, no hope for tomorrow, and then they start wondering, okay, how long will this go on? And retirement can last a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So when these 3 human needs are not met, some people will start dying from within. And eventually it can actually result to a physical death where somebody actually loses hope and they die.
So it's not just about the money.
It has very little to do with the money. Let me explain that. We know that money in itself, money is just a tool.
Yes.
Money in itself does not mean much.
Yeah.
But money funds a lifestyle.
Yes.
So the most important thing with retirement is to determine that lifestyle that you want, and then you look for money to support that lifestyle. But I think most of us look at it the other way around. We start by looking for money.
Yes.
Well, we're not clear about how much we are looking for because we've not defined the lifestyle. And when will this be enough? Such that we focus so much on building financial capital, we neglect the social aspect and the spiritual aspect, which affect our social well-being and our mental well-being.
Yes.
Now, when that happens, research actually has shown that money is not the most important thing in retirement.
Wow.
Your social relationships, and especially your relationship with your spouse and your immediate family, is the most important thing. Think about it this way. If you have all the money in the world, but your children don't want to see you, you don't have a spouse or you're estranged to them, you won't even get to enjoy that money.
Very true.
So the most important thing is to look at life in a holistic way. What is the kind of lifestyle that I want? And even before retirement, even as we work, that is what we should be looking at. What kind of life do I want? So that you're able to focus on those things that will give you the life that you want. But if you just focus on finances, you neglect your children as they're growing up. And sometimes we think our children are very young, they don't see what is going on, but they will grow up knowing I'm not a priority to my dad.
Very true. And
I don't think that will change later in life. They're not a priority to you. They'll probably not want to be a priority to you when you need them.
Yes.
Same thing with our spouses. I think we neglect our spouses, forgetting that when we retire and we no longer have the social circles that we engage in, we'll go back to our spouses. So we need to build those relationships, both family and friends, along as we build our careers and as we make money to ensure that when we retire, we have the most important thing. Money will fund our lifestyle. Money will ensure we have food, but it will not give us all that we need in retirement.
Wow.
So it's a matter of living a holistic life now and taking that into retirement.
Well, what you've said makes sense to me, because now I understand why you have those people who retire, so to speak, in that, they leave employment, but they still want to stay in the city. And sometimes you talk to them about, why don't you go back home? And they tell you, go back home to do what with who? All my relationships are here. All my friends are here. They're in the city. All the activities I think I can engage in are in the city. And people are thinking, no, retire. You need to go back to Yeshagi. And then they are thinking, no, you want to send me to my deathbed. Wanakatalia Nairobi. Wazee wamekatalia Nairobi. It now begins to make sense. That social aspect is very, very important. There's a young man here who says they basically haven't started thinking about retirement because they're thinking they're too young. They are too young. They are still trying to, build themselves up. They have no time to think about retirement. Iko na uko mbali sana. We'll talk about that shortly. If you have any questions for us today, 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786316316. Do you have a plan for retirement? As we talk about this, I'm so sure, I am very sure my dad and my mama are watching, because they watch every day. They are in their retirement. So what are they doing in their retirement? They are watching their son work. That is what my parents do in retirement. Every morning between 8 and 9, they sit down and watch their son working. Mom, I'm at work today. When I'm not at work, she calls, where are you? That program is a repeat. She is very diligent. My number one fans. Okay, Maswali on 20316. My name is James Okumu. It's the Financial Clinic. Today we are talking about preparing for retirement, and we're hanging out with financial and retirement planner Rose Wakiria joining us via Zoom. Timothy Wauba, how are you doing today? You say for you want to retire in Oshago. You do some farming, some cows, some chickens, some German dogs with your lovely wife. Okay, that's a good plan. I hope you're working towards it. Thank you for sharing that with us. We went out to the streets of Nairobi and we talked to several people and asked them the question if they have any plans for retirement, and the responses were quite interesting. Listen to what they had to say.
Retirement plan. For me, before I retire, I must get myself engaged, because home is home, and you must develop home. Nairobi will be Nairobi. You'll not stay here forever. Yeah. So plan your life in time. In the village, make sure you have a house, a good house, because of the government now is machinani. Yeah. So when we take resources to the machinani, what else? Why are you still in Nairobi? Plan yourself in time. Wake up your shamba or a small land. Put few things. Put irrigation there. Do everything. At least you hit from whatever you get from the ground, from your shamba.
Nitafanya kabiashara, sitakaa vile. Nitafungua kabiashara, nitafuga kuku, nitakuwa mkulima.
Kuhusu retire, wakati nitakuwa mtu ambaye hajiwezi kufanya kazi. Saa hii unajua ndio natengeneza maisha yangu ya wakati nitakayekaa chini. Somehow unaweza invest kwa lands, kwa mashamba ama kwa mabuilding. Ndio ukikaa chini utakuwa na shida.
So I just see myself probably in a very quiet home, in a very quiet place, age gracefully. Well, still write and do things I love to do.
Mambo ya retirement kama niliweka kando nikaachia Mungu. Kitu ya kwanza, kazi zilisha, mimi siko kazi. Kwa hivyo kila kitu niliweka kando nikaachia Mungu peke yake. Aniongoze. Hiyo peke yake.
I love the last guy. Absolutely love him. Yeah, ameachia Mungu. Kazi iliisha, sasa ameachia tu kila kitu Mungu. I like that guy. But Rose, there's something that I keep hearing over and over again. Before we talk about this gentleman who thinks he's too young, I keep hearing people say when I retire, I'll go back home and I'll be a farmer. And I keep asking myself, have you done any kind of farming before? You know, so all your life you've been working in Nairobi, or working wherever it is you're working, or do whatever business you've been doing. You've never done any kind of farming, but then suddenly when you retire, you'll start doing farming and you expect it to work. I always find that very interesting.
I want to hope and pray that those who say they'll go back to farming, they probably grew up upcountry and they know what farming is all about.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think farming is one of those things that you can do at different scales. You can do subsistence farming where you're just growing a few things. So I don't think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
What I would want to pray that they have done as well is that they're not pegging all their hopes that that farming is what will provide the income they need in retirement. In retirement, what you need is basically income.
Yeah.
You need to be liquid to be able to meet your needs. And the needs in retirement tend to be a little bit different than when you're working. When you're working, you have a lot of expenses. Maybe you're raising a family, you're paying school fees, you're paying some debt, amongst other things. But when you retire, probably your children have left home,
Yes.
You've educated them.
Yes.
So your actual needs, for a majority of people, they actually reduce. And like you had asked about the misconception, some people think they need a lot of money to retire. Not necessarily so. Majority of expenses go down. You don't commute, you don't have to buy office clothes, you don't eat out a lot. A lot of expenses come down, with sometimes exception of medical expenses.
Yeah.
That is likely to
Okay.
go up
Yes.
as you grow older. So it is important that you work on having a passive income that can cover your basic needs, so that whether farming brings in money or not, you will be okay.
Yeah.
And so that is what you need to do during your career. You build up, you save slowly. You don't need to save a lot of money. The young man probably who asked that question,
Yeah.
I would like to tell him that he's probably in his 20s, I hope.
Yes.
And that is probably one of the easiest stages of life. If you don't start now, the next decade comes with a lot of responsibilities.
Yes.
You get married, you get children, they need to go to school. So there'll never be a right time when your finances are in order and now you can start saving for retirement. So you just have to learn to manage whatever you have and take a portion of it and keep it for future, because a future is coming when for various reasons you will not be able to generate an income. Else, you will continue with these struggles throughout your life and into retirement.
Okay. Okay. In fact, in response to that, Carol sent in a message. Carol says, I wish I knew what I know now. I would have begun as early as I graduated and got my first job. For those saying that they are young, they had better plan early when they are young, energetic and vibrant. Great insights you're sharing with us. Caroline, thank you for that message. So, Rose, let's get into it. So what do I need to do? Where do I begin? If I'm thinking about retirement and I want to plan and I want to plan well, where do I begin?
Okay, where you begin is you realize that with every paycheck, you're closer to retirement. So you have to start and you need to start saving. Now, majority of us may not be experts in investments. So sometimes we'll start businesses, they collapse, they go away with all the capital that we put in. I encourage people to put in money in retirement benefits.
Okay.
Putting in some money in retirement benefits doesn't stop you from going ahead and doing other investments. Actually, I encourage people to do a retirement fund and build other investments so that in retirement they'll have multiple sources of income. That is what gives you financial stability. So if you're a young person, I probably think you can afford to save 500 shillings. Majority of retirement benefits will accept as low as 500 shillings at one point. If you can make several contributions in a month, they will accept your money. Aspire to save a proportion of your income. For example, 10%. 10%, this could be maybe your own contribution, or if you're employed, probably your employer has a retirement benefit scheme, he'll also be contributing to that.
Okay.
So if you cannot afford 10% of your income, start where you can and start as early as you can. Retirement benefits, if you go to Retirement Benefits Authority, you can actually find a list of what we call individual retirement plans for those who are not who are not working for employers who give them a retirement benefit scheme.
Okay.
And you can actually find out which one can you join, and it's very easy to enroll. You can make your contributions through M-Pesa and you build a fund. If I may give an example, one of my clients recently left employment He had contributed for quite a while, about 4 million. And this might sound like a big amount because it's throughout her career.
Yeah.
But what happened is that the interest she got from that investment was more than her own contribution.
What?
Her own contribution was actually 4% of the fund. So what this does when you invest probably in a retirement benefit scheme is that you reduce the amount of money you need to save for retirement, because interest will actually be growing and it will reduce what you need to put in. As you build your retirement fund through a retirement benefits plan, go ahead and do other investments. And some of the things that you will need in retirement is a home. So you might not be able to afford a home right now, but bearing in mind that you need to do that, you can also put your money in other investments that later in future you can either sell them to buy a piece of land and develop, or if you're able to take a mortgage, you can take a mortgage for a home. But have in mind that you'll need a home, whether here in Nairobi,
yes,
you need somewhere.
I have a question.
Then the other thing
I have a question before we move on the whole retirement funds. For many people, we assume si wanakata NSSF kila mwezi, so we assume I've got something for retirement. In fact, Mama Hassan is asking, now this NSSF inaendaga wapi watu wakiretire? So talk to us a bit about that, because I think some of us get blinded by that and we think, I'm already doing something towards my retirement, but is that enough?
If you're only contributing to NSSF, that is definitely not enough. Majority of people contribute the minimum contribution. That is 200 shillings.
Yes.
And the employer is probably topping up with 200 shillings. Or if you are in self-employment, you probably make 500 shillings. I like telling people to think of retirement, planning for retirement this way. If you're, for example, at age 30, you probably have like 30 years to work.
Yeah.
Then you will probably live in retirement for another 30 years. Retirement will be a long time for majority of us. So assume that with every check, you're also saving for a month in retirement. So when you put in 400 shillings, you need to ask yourself, will this be enough to sustain me in a month in future? That should give you a guideline. So NSSF, you can actually make additional contributions, not just the bare minimum, and save in that. But like I said, you need to look at it like you need to take a proportion, a significant proportion of your income, 5 to 10%. Because if you start early, that fund is going to grow very fast and it's going to be a big fund when you retire. So that is not enough if you're only contributing to NSSF at the minimum rates. I would say you either top up to NSSF or open your own individual retirement plan. And if you're in employment and they have a retirement benefit scheme, you need to join that scheme. But over and above that, still make other investments.
I like that. I like that. Make other investments. You know, I like that because I think sometimes we wait until too late. Back to the whole farming thing. You know, because I think we wait until we retire. In fact, we were having this conversation with my producer the other day, you know, and he was telling me, just talking to several people, you know, many people are thinking, I retire, I will start operating a taxi. And I'm thinking, okay, do you have enough knowledge to operate a taxi at that point? Is it something you've ever done? You know, it's almost like we keep thinking that when I get to retirement, I can begin something new, but you know, failure at that point is very expensive. You know, if you go into farming at that point and you have this 15-acre farm and you want to farm and when there's Sarah, it will be such a huge blow, you know. So maybe talk to us about the mindset as well, because earlier on you told us money is the least important thing when we're talking about retirement. There are other aspects that are more important. Talk to us a bit the kind of mindset we need to start developing now, even as we look forward to that place where we get to retire.
I think we need to look at life with a long-term perspective. We need to look beyond what we're doing just now and realize that there's a long way to go, so that even as you manage your money now, you don't say, I will do it later, I will plan for retirement later. Because one of the things, just like you said, when it comes to businesses, we know the failure rate of businesses. Even for people in your youth and people who have the energy, the knowledge and everything. Those statistics don't change when you reach retirement, because many people will go into a different area than they are experienced in. So the right mindset is to think that I need to plan for this all along my career, from the beginning to the end, and in small proportions. Because if you do it in small proportions, then it won't be a big cost to you. If you delay, you'll have to make a big investment. For example, if you retire, you get your NSSF. If your people retiring around this time, they're getting, if they've been working for 30, 35 years, you'll probably get something around 400,000, 450,000. That cannot take you far. So the most important is plan along the way. Anticipate the things that you need to take care of. You need to buy a piece of land if you don't want to take a mortgage, or if you don't want to buy a house up country, and plan along the way. And I also would want people to talk more to people who are in retirement and learn a lot from them, because they're now on the other side. We tend to disregard these people, but I learn a lot from my clients who are retiring and those who are in retirement, because the perspective in retirement is totally different. So you see things from a different perspective. You're able to see what is important. So we are probably addressing some of the people who might be struggling with finances, but let's think about people who also are earning a lot of money. Because there's some of the people who actually die so fast are the people who are holding high positions, probably in government or in private sector. So their challenge is normally different. While the people with low income, and income is, they're not able to save enough. These people probably have very good pension plans, which are going on along, but their challenge usually is to get so absorbed into their work. They become single-minded about their work, such that they don't start engaging, they don't engage with the life that they will need to live later on in life. So some of these people, one of the things, the common mistake I see with people is that they keep on upgrading their lifestyle. They keep on upgrading their lifestyle as their income increases. And that does not necessarily result in saving more for retirement. It's probably taking more debt, living in a bigger house, holidays and all that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I like encouraging people to think of a lifestyle that you will want to maintain in retirement and try to live up your lifestyle along that, so that when you retire, you don't have to make this drastic change, which for many people results to depression. So both ends of the spectrum, there are things you really need to look for. The right perspective is to look at retirement as a season where you can do some of those things you've always wanted to do, but you couldn't do because you had restrictions in terms of time, or you had to make money to educate your children, but now some of those things have gone down. Retirement is more than the money, but you will need the money to live in retirement.
Yes. There's a question here about the retirement the retirement funds that one can get into. Somebody's asking you to give us examples. Najua to NSSF. And then another question in relation to that, when you die, what happens to that money? If you happen to die before retirement and before claiming that money, what happens to it?
Great question. So NSSF is one of them, and it's mandatory for employees in organizations. You can start a retirement benefits plan, like I have said. They're called personal pension plans. If you're in employment, you can be in a retirement benefit scheme sponsored by the employer. Other things you can do, especially for people who are in business, who sometimes get a lot of money, and they would want to keep this for retirement, we have some insurance products called deferred annuity. So a deferred annuity, what it does is that you bring in a lump sum, let's say 500,000 shillings, you give it to an insurance company, you get into a contract with them that you will not access this money until when you're 50, for example. So what it does is that because it is locked, just like when you lock your money in a fixed deposit, it grows very, very, very fast. And again, that money remains for retirement purposes. That is one of the products which is not taken by very many people. And the reason being, people don't want to invest in something they cannot access. Majority of people want to invest in something they can go and get out tomorrow. But those tend to be some of the best, to give some of the very best returns. The other things you can also invest in are like government bonds. Government bond is a long-term investment, and it also generates an income. So while you will start earning that income, even now when you're not in employment, you can still, again, reinvest the interest if you don't need it, but it can actually stretch into retirement to ensure that you continue getting an income. Many people think you need a lot of money to invest in treasury bonds. You don't. You only need 50,000 shillings to invest in treasury bonds. And so you can do this progressively throughout your career. And this won't stop you from meeting your other needs. So these are just some of the basic products that you can do. Of course, for people with a lot more money, they can get customized solutions. You can work with investment managers at a small fee, which will basically come from your investment return. You can actually have a structured plan that will meet your specific needs. Again, remember, we are all different and our circumstances are different, and we will need, so it's also good to have a customized plan. So for those who struggle, you don't know where to get help, there are many places you can get help. Some of those investment firms I'm talking about, insurance companies, there are many financial advisors and planners who can advise you. We are also there. We do retirement planning. Retirement Benefits Authority is there. It guides people. It will give you direction as to where to go about it. But if you forget everything I have said, one of the simplest areas you can save in is a retirement benefits plan, a personal pension plan, because it's basically designed for that particular purpose.
What about the other question? Somebody was asking, what happens to that money when I die?
Oh, yes. Most of those products, especially the retirement benefits, starting from NSSF, you normally name beneficiaries. So these are people who would be paid in event of your death. So you already take care of that by doing that. Other investments, investments like in treasury bonds and other things, those form part of your estate when you die. So your family will have to come together and get letters of administration. And that is also one of the things that people should plan for, even as they build their retirement plan. So you need to write a will. You need to say, of my death, the investments, which are, it's only the insurance products and retirement benefits, which do not form part of the estate. So those ones, they are paid off to the nominated beneficiaries, but the rest you'll have to say who you'd want to have those assets. It's important to let your people know about these things because, in case you die and you didn't let your people know that you had some benefits, and those organizations cannot, those assets will go to government, to the unclaimed assets. So as you save also, and that is why I say retirement planning is a holistic plan, you need to be in good relationship with your family so that you can be able to tell them, by the way, in case something happens, I have money, and you can claim it.
Wow. Okay. Aya, we have about 16 more minutes, so if you have a question, throw it in now on SMS 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. We're hanging out with Rose Wakiria. Rose is a financial and retirement planner, and Uliza Swali Sahi. It is the Financial Clinic. We're hanging out with financial and retirement planner Rose Wakiria. Your questions are coming through. Thank you for sending them in. Rose, there's a question here that's asking, how does one deal with having been made to retire early, way before they were ready, especially now with this pandemic?
So when you lose your job suddenly, you definitely need to manage your money very well, because you don't know, especially depending on what age you are in, your prospects of getting an income. So I may not be able to describe a situation that fits everybody, but I would like to say, for those who are in retirement, who have retirement benefits, and you're above 50 years, encourage people to take an income. Instead of accessing your money as a lump sum, you should take most of it as an income. So what that provides you is that steady income to cover your basics, and that gives you peace of mind to be able to pursue other things that could lead to income generation. The challenge with majority of people is that they take the money as a lump sum, and then they start making these projects, and they also squander the only probably savings that they have. Now, the good thing about when you lose a job, there are always good things about it, is that at that point you'll be free to look at various things that you can do. Do not panic. First thing is assess your skills and say, okay, what have I learned over the years? What have I always wanted to do over the years? And try something new that you can do. So for some of us, it will mean going up country and actually taking care of that farm that we've always had, and it works for a number of people. For other people, they go back into the work environment. But what I would say is that be careful about the resources that you have. You manage them well so that they don't. This situation or this scenario does not leave you worse off.
Yes.
And many people struggle with that. So one of the things I normally do is actually work with people who have lost their jobs. I sit down with them, we look at their circumstances, and we look at what would be the best use of this money. I have an online course that I have done for people who have lost jobs. If they would be interested, they can get in touch with me. Okay. At a very small cost of about 3,500, they can actually learn on a step-by-step process how you can actually manage the resources. And remember, job loss is not just financial. Yes. It also affects, it's like a mini retirement, actually.
Yes.
It affects your social aspect, it affects your psychological aspects, and of course, money is also a big part of it.
Okay.
But loss of a job does not mean you cannot be economically active again. You just need to explore, but use your resources well so that you don't lose everything.
This one says, at 52 years, where do I start?
If you have not saved, we're talking about somebody who does not have a plan for retirement at 52 years?
I don't know. Maybe they don't. Most likely they don't.
So I believe there's a lot they can do. It is never too late to start. Whatever income that you have, start saving some of it. For that time, you will not have an income. But think more about the lifestyle that you want. It's also good to realize one of the things that come with retirement, the psychological aspects of retirement, is the whole issue of self-actualization. It is important sometimes to realize that, yes, I had all these dreams, and some I can achieve, but it's also good to realize that some I will probably not achieve. Yeah. So even if you discover this later during your career, it's never too late to start. And as Christians, we know God can bless you one day and actually make up for a very, very long time. So one of the things I would want to encourage people is that all these things we are talking about and much more is all contained in the Bible, including preparing for future. So if you just manage your money using just 5 basic principles of managing money at whatever stage of life, you're likely to start on a path that could lead you to success, even if it's late in time. So if I may quickly mention those 5 principles, the first one is spend less than you earn. Basically, if you spend less than you earn, you'll have a little surplus that you can invest. Second one is to create a margin. And this basically means do not operate check to check. Always create some liquidity so that in case of an emergency, which will always happen, we always have things happen to us that we didn't anticipate. You'll be able to take care of that and preserve your other investments. And even in event of loss of job, you will actually have something to take care of that. Third principle, avoid use of debt. I did not say do not take debt. I just said avoid use of debt.
Yes.
That's what the Bible tells us. And that is a whole topic. And the other principle is give generously. Sometimes we feel like we don't have enough, but giving, God says he who refreshes others is also refreshed.
Yes.
And the last one, is to manage your money with a long-term perspective. When you manage your money with a long-term perspective, you actually make better financial decisions.
Yes.
So even at 52, if you start applying these principles, you'll actually start realizing you're putting aside something for retirement. And while you might not build a very huge fund, but there's no limit to what God can do, you could actually realize that you have better days later. Of course, maybe for those who are in employment, I think the one thing that I would probably want to tell them is that you never know when you leave employment. Yes, you have a retirement date, but you never know. So you should actually start preparing and be ready at any point because you can lose your job for whatever reason.
I think last year made that very clear and very real to a lot of people, and not just employment, even your business. One day you can wake up and everything has changed. I think last year created such a reality for many of us. Now we have no option. We have to think ahead and we have to plan better. Well, Rose, my time is up for today, but I'm very thankful for the conversation we've been able to have this morning. My good friend Kagoe, Richard Kagoe, how are you doing? You say very timely conversation. It takes delayed gratification, discipline to embark on the journey. It's been 11 years for me into saving for retirement. Oh, my goodness. Good for you, my friend. And thank you for always being a part of the show. Well, this topic, we'll continue with it. We'll continue building on it because what we want to do on on the financial clinic in the month of February is build on the whole aspect of retirement, preparing for it, and even when you get into retirement, how can you thrive? What are some of the things you can do? Sio kupeleka tu taxi na kufanya farming. No, there are a lot of other things you can do. I love something that Rose said earlier. In your years of working, you gained experience. Consultancy could be something you could think of, because you have a lot of wealth, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. Now, unaona vile siku hizi vijana wameharibika. They need somebody who can guide them in the way that they should go. That could be something you could do. So we'll hook up again next week for another financial clinic. Thank you for being a part of it.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.